morning. Let us be very still for a moment. What you are to receive is not in these words, and it is not in the sound of my voice. The physical ear never hears truth, and the tongue never truly speaks it. There is a something that must be discerned between the lines, behind the syllable, within the pause that is not a pause. If it comes, it will not come because you followed the argument well. It will come because a space opened and you let it. Now, let us put the knife to the root at once. The only good desire is no desire. Immediately the mind protests. If I have no desire, will I not become apathetic, lazy, a failure? Will not my bills go unpaid, my children uncared for, my art unmade? And I say, that is your fear speaking. That is the voice of the personal sense arguing for its kingdom. That is the noise that has kept you busy and empty and yet too full. Now then, hear this. A full vessel cannot receive. Fullness is not supply. Fullness is occupancy. What occupies you? Plans, opinions, timetables, anxieties baptized as responsibilities, righteous goals. Even your finest prayers are often merely more occupation. Give me, save me, fix this, improve that. You send them up crowded with outlines, and then you wonder why nothing new descends. How could it? There is no room for grace to enter a mind packed tight with its own blueprints. You have been pouring from a jug already filled to the brim with your own will. You cannot taste a new wine while defending the old cup. My kingdom is not of this world. Not of this world. Not even an improved this world. Not even a perfect this world. Therefore, supply is not earned, won, or engineered inside the human scene. Nobody in this room will purchase heaven with better management or more virtuous schedules. God does not enter the realm of your contriving. Those that worship must worship in spirit and in truth, or not at all. And spirit does not trade in your currencies of fear and bargaining. Now do not mistake me. No desire does not mean no life. Emptiness is not death. It is availability. There is a way to be emptied without becoming dull. A way to let the grasping fall and yet move more surely than you have ever moved. There is a government that does not report to your clock or your appetite. When the vessel is clear of the clamor, there is guidance, clean, unforced, accurate, arriving without your outlining, fulfilling without your strain. You need not understand that now with the mind. You need only face this first provocation. Your best, holiest wanting may be the very fullness obstructing grace. Be still. Let the crowded room of thought grow quiet. Do not beg, do not bargain. Do not decorate the cup. Make room. In that making room, we will find that the kingdom is not postponed. It is present. And presence, not desire, is the door by which supply appears. Now then, let us draw the line and not blur it with religious perfume. There are two orders of experience appearing in one place we call here. One is the human scene, this world, operating on lack, comparison, and time. It measures, it bargains, it competes. It says, I have not, I am not, but if I strive, if I plan, if I pray correctly, I shall be. That world breathes in tomorrow and exhales anxiety. Desire is native to it because it is built on the confession of absence. Desire is the engine of that realm. I do not have, I will be satisfied later. All of its prayers are colored by that premise. My kingdom is not of this world, not of it, not even an improved this world. Supply belongs to that kingdom as naturally as thirst belongs to the desert. Grace is the government there. Completeness is the law there. Now is the atmosphere there. You cannot import the methods of this world and expect to discover the climate of that one. Nobody ever carried a suitcase of human wanting across that border and found it stamped with heaven's seal. It cannot be done. Hear the unsettling statement, and do not rush to pretty it up. There is no God in the human scene. That is, God is not an actor inside appearances, not a piece on the board you can move with the right chant. God does not enter the traffic of cause and effect to bless one lane and punish another. Where you see the movement of effects, the rise and fall, the winning and the losing, you are watching the shadow play of a realm that runs on its own exhaust. Spirit is realized by transition, not by rearranging effects. Do you see? You do not clean the mirror by wiping the reflection. You step behind the glass into the light that makes reflection possible. Now then, the paradox that offends the literalist and relieves the humble. We still remain in this world, but not of it. We will appear to have bodies, calendars, professions, relationships. We will appear to have needs, food, shelter, companionship. But we do not live inside the need as identity. We do not consent to the label needy one and then set about decorating that label with spiritual words. We live as the presence of the kingdom in the midst of the human picture, unhooked from its premises, governed by grace rather than driven by appetite or fear. And when the picture presents a lack, we do not reach into the picture to fix it. We step back into the kingdom and let grace reveal its all-readiness. The form adjusts by law of being, not by our personal management. This draws the question that must order the rest of our time together. If desire is the mechanism of the human world and we relinquish it, what then moves us? If we stop bargaining with tomorrow, what directs the next step? If we do not outline supply, what supplies us? Do not answer quickly. Let the questions burn for a moment. My kingdom is not of this world, and yet here we seem to stand. How then shall we live so that the government of grace, not the gravity of want, bears us along? Now, hold there. We will not solve it with a better prayer. We will make the transition and watch government replace effort. Now, let us expose the secret engine under almost every prayer and plan. Time. Time is the fuel of desire. Without time, desire cannot run. Try it. Can you live a minute from now? Not think about it. Live it. A minute from now is a complete vacuum. You cannot breathe there. You cannot act there. You cannot be there. It has no air, no ground, no spirit. Now try the other trick mind loves. Can you live a minute ago? That is a museum of ashes. A memory, warm or cold, but dead to the touch. You cannot correct it, fix it, or eat from it. Both are departures from the kingdom. My kingdom is not of this world, and this world is made of before and after. The kingdom is not. Desire is almost always a contract with tomorrow. Peace later. Security later. Healing later. If I get this, then. Do you hear the postponement? The personal sense sells you a promissory note and then charges you interest in fear. The very moment you consent, you eject your awareness from the only place grace can be recognized. now. The minute you attempt to live in time, you have stepped out of the state of grace and back under law. Cause and effect, sweat and strain. The treadmill that says, work the angles and maybe it will come. Nobody is ever supplied in tomorrow. Nobody. The rose never blooms an hour from now. Whenever it blooms, it is now. Do not confuse this with throwing away the calendar. We still may set a meeting for Tuesday, book the train, chill the dough overnight. That is arrangement, not identity. Planning is a handmaiden. Projecting is a master. Planning marks a coordinate in the human picture and leaves it. Projecting moves in and tries to live there. The one who arranges and remains present is under grace. The one who projects and lives in the picture is back under law. You will feel the difference in your breath. Strain for the projector, ease for the arranger who abides. Supply seems to come in time. A check arrives on Thursday. A diagnosis clears in 6 weeks. A friend calls at dusk. That is how the picture frames it. But supply is never the envelope, the report, or the ring of the phone. Supply is the felt rightness of being that dawns in consciousness now, and then the picture reflects it in whatever hour it must. The form is not the source. The source is presence realized. Miss this, and you will worship the outer shape and fear its vanishing. See this, and the shapes come and go without disturbing your rest. How then does now open? Not by faster thinking, not by louder affirmations, by the one act the mind cannot perform and therefore fears. Stopping. When the interior argument ceases, sometimes for the briefest blink, a split second of silence, rushes the truth. Not a sentence, the spirit itself. In that instant, something in you relaxes its grip on tomorrow, and the government of grace is felt. You need no proof beyond the quiet that follows. Remain there. The world will try to bait you into minutes ahead and minutes behind. Decline the bait. Return. Now. Now then, watch how desire starves for lack of time, and how, in its absence, supply that was already present becomes visible. Now then, if time is the gasoline, who is driving the car? The personal I, the desiring instrument. The hidden confession inside almost all wanting is this: I, personally, must secure my future. Listen closely, and you will hear it even inside spiritual words. God, give me a sign. God, open this door. God, bless this plan. Whose plan? Whose door? It is the personal sense attempting to get God to endorse a private outline. It is still my demonstration, only dressed in reverent language. The tone is prayer, but the government is self. When we fear, we testify. Not to danger, but to our faith in personal agency. Fear says, I am counting on making this demonstration without the help of God. You will not like hearing that, but hear it. Desire is the respectable costume fear wears to enter church. Responsible goals, reasonable expectations, providing for the future. It sounds noble. It feels adult. But underneath is the same confession of separation. I am apart from supply, therefore I must reach. Reach where? Into tomorrow, into persons, into methods. And the moment we reach, we leave the kingdom. My kingdom is not of this world, not of it, not even an improved this world. Therefore, not my will, not my plan, not my demonstration. Grace governs. Say it, and then notice where the jaw tightens, where the hand curls. The eye that grasps is the eye that blocks. The tighter the fist, the emptier the palm. The fuller the vessel with "I know," the less room there is for "I am." Do you see the arithmetic? Self-reliance adds effort and subtracts grace, until the sum is lack. Correction must be made here, with a firmness that will save you months. Nobody can bring you supply, peace, recognition, or safety. Not a person, not a channel, not a method. If your good seems to come through them, be grateful for the picture, but do not enthrone the picture as cause. The faucet is not the water. The window is not the sun. The check is not your supply. The compliment is not your worth. The formula is not your safety. Dependence upon any of these is still the human scene. It is law. It is cause and effect. And law cannot deliver grace. Only transition can. Now then, do not twist this into a crusade against feeling. The issue is not desire as a flicker of emotion. The issue is desire as occupation. Mental noise that leaves no room for spirit. A wave of longing may pass across consciousness like wind over the grass. Let it pass. Do not build a house under it. Do not organize a committee around it. The moment it becomes occupation, it becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow is a vacuum. In the vacuum, the personal I imagines itself the generator of life and tightens every muscle to prove it. And the more it tightens, the more it testifies to absence. Be still and know. Not I, the planner, will know, but I am is knowing. Not my will, not my plan, not my demonstration. Grace governs. Let that sentence not be a slogan, but a scalpel. Let it cut through the layers of respectability until the naked truth is visible. As long as personal sense governs, grace cannot. When the I quiets, even for that split second you have already tasted, government shifts. Responsibility drops from your shoulders to where it belongs, and supply appears not because you held it, but because you ceased to hold anything at all. Now then, let me take away the excuse that will try to creep in right here. If I have no desire, I will become passive. No. Passivity is not spirituality. It is a collapse of the mental apparatus under the weight of its own effort. It is fatigue wearing a halo. Spiritual receptivity is an alert emptiness. It is a poised stillness, like the ear of the deer drinking at the stream. Quiet, yet ready. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. That is not collapse. That is attention to the inner government. Action does not disappear when desire is relinquished. Compulsion disappears. What remains is impulsion. Not craving, but direction. Not grasping, but being led. The difference is not subtle when you know where to look. Desire is urgent. It has a clock in its throat. It chatters, argues, bargains. It says, hurry or else. Impulsion is quiet. It says little and moves cleanly. It has no tomorrow in it. It does not promise later peace. It proceeds from present completeness and therefore is unafraid. Desire is anxious about results and tries to secure them in advance. Impulsion carries its own authority and needs no guarantee. It is the government of grace making itself felt as the next right word, the next right step. Why does this matter for supply? Because desire outlines form. It decides beforehand the shape of the answer and then begs God to bless the blueprint. It reaches into tomorrow and into persons, and the reaching itself testifies to lack. Impulsion receives the form already prepared. It does not select from fear. It recognizes from wholeness. Under impulsion, you will find yourself dialing a number without fretting over outcome, sending a note without rehearsing replies, going to a door without inventing a story, or, just as rightly, doing nothing at all without guilt. In any case, the act is simple, immediate, untroubled. You are not managing supply. You are consenting to be where supply is recognized. Now then, discipline. Do not fight desire with willpower. Willpower is just another face of the same I trying to conquer itself. You will make a hero of struggle and remain in the human scene. Replace desire with stillness. When you feel the appetite rise, the tightening jaw, the rush to outline, stop. A split second is enough if it is honest. Let the interior voice exhaust itself and do not answer. Let the wind empty from the sail of craving. In that brief unclenching rushes the truth. Not an argument, presence. Out of that presence, if there is to be a step, it reveals itself. If there is to be a word, it forms on the tongue. If there is to be silence, it holds you without shame. My kingdom is not of this world. Therefore its movement is not the movement of pressure, comparison, or time. Its movement is impulsion, and impulsion is the life of God acting as the life you are. Emptying desire is not inactivity. It is exchanging the noise of self-direction for the clarity of inner guidance. Stay with that, and you will find that right action is never absent and never hurried. It appears as needed, now, and it leaves no bruise of strain behind it. Now then, practice. Not a better thought, not a holier sentence. Practice of emptiness. The physical ear cannot hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter it. So we do not set about composing statements. We set about becoming a vessel that can receive what no statement can carry. First, the vessel. A cup already brimming with tea cannot be filled with water. You may hold the finest spring over it, and not a drop will enter. Consciousness already filled with opinions, bargaining, and if this, then that, cannot be filled with grace. Empty does not mean dull, stupid, or passive. Empty means unoccupied by outlining. Empty means no contracts with tomorrow, no rehearsed defenses, no private blueprints awaiting divine approval. Empty means available. Now, the protocol. You will feel desire rise. It has a signature: tightness in the jaws, heat in the chest, a sentence beginning with, "if only," or, "when I, then." Do not argue with it. Do not feed it with future pictures. Do not dress it in scriptures. Stop. Now. Stop again. Let the thought run to its edge and end. Do not pick it up for just one more lap around the track. Refuse the bait of, "what if?" Pause until even the echo fades. In that split second of silence, there rushes the truth. Not a new sentence, not a brighter idea. Presence, recognition, an is that does not need your want to be. You can do this wherever you are. In a meeting with eyes open, at a red light, with the phone ringing, between the inhale and the exhale. You can withdraw your consent from tomorrow and let the interior noise fall silent. Short, clean, honest. Not dramatic. And if the noise returns, which it will, do not make a career of fighting it. Stop. Now. Stop again. The gap does not have to be long. It need only be real. The click of a latch. The instant the wind drops. That is all spirit requires to make itself known. You will be tempted to make the silence perform. If I am quiet, then the money will come. Then the pain will leave. Then the call will arrive. That is just desire in religious clothing. Throw it out of the vessel. The moment you attach an if, you refill the cup with your own tea. Leave the silence purposeless. Leave it unbargained. Those that worship must worship in spirit and in truth, not in trade. How do you recognize you have received? By the quality of now. The jaw loosens. The clock disappears. The sentence, I want, is quietly replaced by I am, or better, simply is. There is a soft authority present that needs no outline. Sometimes an impulsion will follow, simple, unhurried, exact. Sometimes nothing follows, and that nothing is complete. You will learn to trust the nothing as much as the step. My kingdom is not of this world. Therefore, grace is not added by thinking. It is not manufactured by intensity or length of prayer. It is received when thought and desire stop. Make a habit of these brief relinquishments, many times a day. Stop. Now. Stop again. Let the thought end. Allow the split second where truth rushes in, and live from that rush as your sufficiency. Now then. There is a moment when all of this ceases to be sentences and becomes life. Not gradually, not by accumulation. A definite point of transition in time and space. It may find you at midnight. It may find you at 3 a.m. It may find you at the kitchen sink or at a stoplight. It is the same moment wherever it appears, the split second in which the personal sense loosens its grip and grace takes the government. How do you know it is that moment and not another nice feeling? You relax. Not the lazy collapse of fatigue. A release. A weight slides from a place you didn't even know was clenched. The forehead is not pressed out into tomorrow. The jaw forgets to set. You may still act, you may speak, you may sign a paper or wash a dish, but you are not acting to secure yourself. The compulsion to manage outcomes, to prop up images, to guarantee a future, drops. Responsibility, as you have carried it, ends. Not because nothing matters, but because the government has changed. My kingdom is not of this world. Under that kingdom, you are no longer the guarantor of your life. You are the transparency through which life flows. Under law, you earn, deserve, manage, and worry. You keep accounts with God and man. You balance ledgers of effort and reward. You consult the clock and the mirror and call it prudence. You live by cause and effect and are always a half step behind the effect, trying to catch it and call it supply. Under grace, there is an impartation. Right place, right time, right word, right silence, without strain. The sequence is reversed. You are given to be where you belong, because belonging is the fact before the footsteps. The train is caught because you were moved 5 minutes earlier without fretting. The client arrives because you were led to plant a seed without bargaining. The door closes and you are not made small by it. Another opens and you did not pry. You are carried. You are not carrying. Do not turn this into a fantasy. Nobody is promised comfort while clinging to personal sense. The transition does not come to the prideful I as a reward for stubbornness. It very often comes after struggle, after tears you do not parade, after lonely hours in which you stop. Now, stop again. Say nothing of your sacrifice. Nobody cares about that story. Keep quiet and go ahead and struggle until the last rag of bargaining drops off. Then, often when you are no longer trying to make it happen, rushes the truth. And with it, the ceasing of your self-appointed job as providence to yourself. The sign of having crossed? You do not bargain. Desire has gone out of it. You are not quiet in order to get. You are quiet because quiet is home. No desire is not a virtue to boast about. It is the end of the trade wind that kept you forever sailing toward a tomorrow you never reached. It is the open door through which the kingdom governs. In that government, supply appears as needed, in the form needed, without evicting you from peace. You still appear to plan, to meet, to call, to bake, to show up, but none of it is a scheme to secure you. It is obedience to impulsion, and impulsion is grace in motion. Now then, fix this in your heart. The goal is not better desiring. The goal is transition. Out from under law into life under grace. Out from management into government. Out from strain into impartation. Make the brief relinquishments and let the moment find you. When it comes, you will not need to ask if it has come. You will have relaxed, and the burden will be where it always belonged, not on you, but in the invisible that governs you. Now then, before we go one step farther, let us bolt the door against the counterfeit that has sneaked into more than one heart under cover of holy words. No desire, you say, and then you do not apologize where apology is due. You do not keep the appointment you made. You do not do the work you took wages for. You let the small dishonesties slide and call it detachment. That is not surrender. That is avoidance. My kingdom is not of this world, but integrity still appears in this world as fulfilled word, clean accounts, and a hand that does what it agrees to do. Grace never sponsors sloppiness. Never. What is this passivity really? It is desire in costume. The desire to be exempt. The desire to be rescued without transformation. The desire to feel comfortable while clinging to personal sense. You would like to be carried, but not to be changed. You would like to keep the old identity and receive the new government. It cannot be done. That bargain is time in silk pajamas. The minute you drift into fantasy, you are back in the human scene. Law, cause and effect, hope and fear. Someday spirit will deliver me. Someday is tomorrow, and tomorrow is a vacuum. Nothing lives there. Not even God as you imagine God. Now then, tests. If you are dull, that is not emptiness. Emptiness is alert. If you are drifting, that is not stillness. Stillness is poised. If you are resentful at those who labor while you wait on guidance, that is not trust. That is envy in a prayer shawl. If you are secretly waiting for a check, a partner, an email to prove your faith, you are in time again. Real emptiness is awake, receptive, present. It hears the interior now and moves, or it hears the interior be still and remains, without sulking, without pressure, without the itch of later. No desire does not cancel responsibility. It purifies motive. Under grace, you still return the extra $1 the teller handed you. You still call the friend you wounded and say, "I was wrong." You still meet the deadline you agreed to meet. You do these not to secure a future or polish an image, but because impulsion arranges harmlessness, clarity, and order. The fruit tells the tree. If your spirituality leaves bruises on others, missed words, unpaid debts, broken promises, you are not under grace. You are hiding. Nobody is impressed by your metaphysics if you use it to escape the plain decencies of life. Reassert the line. Spirit or personal sense. Now or time. Grace or law. If you find yourself narrating a life you are not living, you are in the human scene and under its fatigue. Drop the story. Stop. Now. Stop again. Let the breath settle until that split second of silence opens, and in it, feel the quiet authority that needs no outline. From there, action is simple and exact. A word given is a word kept. A task accepted is a task completed. A boundary spoken is a boundary honored, without heat, without defense. The proof is always the fruit. Peace that doesn't blink when forms change. Clarity that doesn't need a committee. Harmlessness that leaves no wake of fear. Supply that appears without your strain and does not evict you from rest. This is no desire. Not an excuse, but a purified consciousness. Awake, present, governed. My kingdom is not of this world. Live there now and let that government show itself in the smallest acts you touch today. Now then, application. Do not confuse forms with source. Finances, health, relationships, vocation. These are pictures on the film, not the light in the projector. They appear as envelopes, reports, reconciliations between people, assignments accepted, work well done. But supply is not any of those shapes. Supply is the realized presence, here, now, that then lets the picture conform by law of its own being. If you worship the envelope, you will tremble when the envelope is late. If you rest in presence, the envelope becomes a convenience and not a god. Take no thought for tomorrow is not irresponsibility. It is refusal to live in mental projection. You still balance the books that are in front of you today. You still answer the email that is present now. You still take the medicine you are led to take now, or you do not, now, without bargaining for a later reward. You do not live in the story of outcomes. You do the clean next thing and leave the government to grace. The minute you lean into, what if next week, you have left the kingdom and re-entered a vacuum. Do the next honest thing and stay home in now. Patterns, not promises. Often the first supply is direction. An idea rises, quiet, unforced. Cancel that subscription. Call the accountant. Clear the closet. Learn the tool. Plant the seed. Apologize. Or a door opens with no sales pitch in you at all, and you walk through without the tremor of hunger. Or an equally holy no forms, calm, unheeded, and you refuse what yesterday you would have chased. Sometimes supply is a phone call you did not arrange. Sometimes it is a rest you could not justify last year. And in the rest, alignment appears that hurrying would have scattered. Sometimes it is a change of physician, a new regimen, or the sudden recognition that the regimen was fear and may be released. Do not codify the pattern. Receive it. Here is the full vessel warning again, sharp for your safety. If you decide what supply must look like, a number, a title, a diagnosis phrase, a face, you have already filled the vessel, and grace will have no place to enter. You may even get your outline and miss the kingdom, and what you grasp will demand tribute in fear. Better to remain empty and let the form arrive as the government chooses. My kingdom is not of this world. Therefore, its forms are not obliged to your sketches. Steadiness is the practice. The moment you feel the itch to predict, label it time thinking. Stop. Now. Stop again. Let the sentence end. A split second is enough. In that silence, government reestablishes itself, and you will know whether to write the note, make the meal, call the clinic, decline the offer, or sit in the chair and breathe. Whatever follows that silence will be simple, and it will not eject you from peace. That is the mark. Supply without outlining. The form arrives, you remain in the kingdom, and peace does not blink. Now then, we close where we should have begun, at emptiness that is fullness. Do not stumble at the word empty. We have never asked you to be a hollow shell. We have asked you to be unoccupied by the personal sense. That is all. Empty of my way, empty of my plan, empty of the itch to outline. What fills that space is not vacancy. What fills it is spirit itself. Emptiness of self is fullness of I am. Not I was, not I will be, is. My kingdom is not of this world. Fix that refrain like a stake in the ground. You will still appear in this world. Bills, deadlines, weather, headlines, applause, and blame blowing hot and cold. But you are not governed by them. You are not baited by their promises, nor bent by their threats. Government has changed. Impulsion moves you. Noise does not. You will find yourself where you must be, saying what must be said, or saying nothing at all. And none of it is a negotiation with fear. Hear then the call, negative and exact. Give up yesterday. All of it. The trophies and the wounds. They neither feed you nor starve you today. Give up tomorrow. The hope and the dread. You cannot inhale there. Give up the secret demand that life meet your desire. You do not have a right to your outline. You have an invitation to grace. Remain in now until the split second of silence opens the way. Stop. Now. Stop again. Let a thought end. Let the bargaining end. In that instant rushes the truth. Do not look to me, to this room, to a method, to a person. You cannot. Not one in this room can live for you. Not a teacher, not a book, not a prayer wheel. The kingdom is within you, or it is nowhere for you. You must make the transition within yourself. At 10 o'clock, or midnight, or in a grocery line. You. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. Nobody can usher you into your own now. Nobody. The promise is quiet and it is sure. When desire ends, fear ends. The jaws loosen, the breath deepens, the eyes stop scanning a horizon that never arrives. When fear ends, you relax. Not into apathy, but into being governed. Grace takes the government, and you cease carrying what you could never carry. Supply appears as needed, forms rise and fall without ejecting you from peace, and you become, without trying to become, a presence that blesses. Your touch does not bruise. Your words do not clatter. Your silence is not withdrawal. It is shelter. So live. Live in now as an empty vessel. Empty of plan, full of presence. Refuse yesterday. Refuse tomorrow. Refuse the ancient trade of desire for delay. Make the brief relinquishments many times a day until the split second becomes the atmosphere you breathe. Still in this world, but not of it. My kingdom is not of this world. Let that kingdom govern and find the only fullness desire could never produce. A life that blesses by being, unmoved by the seen, steady as is.